Hey, Tbone.
Yeah.
Now she knows, right?
Yeah. She
Okay,
should.
just making sure. Did you shut down? Or are you still on?
No, I'm still up. Yo, your thing is loud.
Sorry.
What's good on birthday? You can share it out, bro. Yes, there's supposed to be a debate.
Yes, lady. Y'all, I just
That
got this
shit
account.
loud as hell. Damn.
It's the news. It's the Albanian news. They're talking about Iran. I was
Yeah,
listening
that
to.
shit. I don't know if it's my earpiece or something, but that shit just blasting. Like that shit loud as hell.
It's your earpiece, maybe, because it's not that loud. It's not. But what's it called? My account's shadow banned because I just got it back today, this morning, or was it yesterday? I don't remember. When was the 17th? Oh, it was
If you
today.
want to, after we're finished with this, I could just tell everybody to come over here if you want.
Well,
That
if
should
it's
help
still
you out.
good, if it's still going good over there, leave it open. We'll move over there.
Okay.
Oi, oi, oi. What time? Should have been at 7 though, right? Confusing things.
It was supposed to be at 7:30.
Oh, I thought 7.
Nope, 7:30.
Until she gets here, I'm gonna do the dishes. Maybe I'll eat.
Mm.
Oh shit, who's calling? Un momento.
No, I'm not ready for the debate, Jess. Tell you the truth, I ain't even in the move to do this shit, but promises were made, so I am here.
Drop somebody over there so I can come up.
Drop whoever you want.
I don't have powers on that account.
Uh,
Who's not talking?
I don't know.
They all talking. Never mind.
You want me to drop like nah, cause Ray talking. I don't even know who to drop. You want to drop nephew?
Nah, wait. They're all talking. If they're not talking.
I.
Please. You sure she knows? Sure she didn't forget?
Yes.
Okay. Oh, Queen is here. About to say Tbone was gonna win by a default. Alright, I turned it off, Isabella. No, Green Leg, you're not coming up. It's a structured debate, Green Leg. I kind of agree with you, Jeff. I was probably because I wanted to wash the damn dishes, but I think I'm just gonna wait. I'm too tired. Oh, Tbone, you should see what I did to the garden for this year. Tbone, the square, I doubled the square. I am gonna plant everything and anything this year. Mm-hmm.
You told the state you gonna be growing shit?
No, why I gotta tell the state? Shut up, Tbone.
I think it's a certain capacity you're supposed to tell the state.
Well,
Gotta get like certificates or some shit. That's what I heard,
huge.
at least. I don't know.
That's huge. All right, I did a big one. Very big. Thought it was 7:30.
Yeah, FGA gonna be upset.
I'm here. Good
Shit, they don't,
afternoon, Queen.
shut that garden down.
I don't have powers on that account. Switch my box. Oh my god.
Never mind. I'm gonna give you mod on that one. You just do whatever. But you do gotta stay engaged to run the timer and shit.
Absolutely. Y'all want to wait a little bit more till everybody comes in, or
Yeah, because ain't they still hollering on T-Bone's other panel?
yeah?
Yeah, I was asleep. Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm late. I'm late. Like the white rabbit, but it don't matter because people not even in here anyway.
Ashley's so mean to Breeze Zaza. I mean, she looked good. She got her hair fixed, you know?
What do you mean fix? What was wrong with it, Belle?
I don't, I, I don't,
No, Belle. Why did she need to fix it? What was wrong?
I don't know. She had like this short thing going on at the top and then long at the bottom. Not that there's anything wrong with that. I mean, she looked good either way. She's a beautiful woman. Oh, the mullet. Yeah. No, I'm not a mullet hater. No, Nakia, no. It's a beautiful thing. I just don't think it's for everyone, you know? Not an everyone thing. T-Bone, I don't get that last message. Oh, shit. Oh my God, thank you. Thank you for the gifts. Oh, I'm nervous. Y'all nervous? I'm really nervous about this one. I can't.
You nervous?
I don't know. I don't know.
T-Bone told the people he didn't even want to debate.
This one's gonna be a
How many viewers are you waiting for, Belle?
I mean, whenever y'all are ready, you know.
Doesn't T-Bone still got his live going?
Yeah, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, but I can still
T-Bone.
do it. It doesn't matter.
Oh, okay.
Maybe you could tell. You want to move them over here, T-Bone, and then we can move back.
Is that what you want me to do? Tell him to come over here?
I mean, I don't know. It's up to you, Queen. Or we
All
can
right, hold
start.
on.
Yeah, I'm ready whenever.
All right, I'll let them know. I'm gonna go ahead and just shut it down, and then we'll come back to this after, y'all. Well, damn, everybody, boom. Yeah, everybody should be coming over now. Actually, let me just go to my other account.
Hey, thanks for letting me up. I'll be real quick. Who loses points for spelling lightning incorrectly in the background?
Oh, shut up. It was my spell
Well,
check.
your spell check sucks. It clearly is not checking shit.
Well, yeah. Well, fuck
Okay, so
you.
since that's a red room, blue room member, extra point gets awarded to Queen.
Oh, oh. I made that real quick, you know, with like a 2 second.
So are we waiting for something?
Nah, I'm ready. You ready, Bell? What's going on? Nah, I'm chill. I'm in the debate. Bell, you running the show. What's going on?
I heard her start up her car, but I don't know if we waiting on her to get back home.
Nice. That's exactly what we needed. We don't know. We don't.
Oh, okay.
Bell.
Bill again cruising in
Oh,
town.
do you want to do the coin toss? Who wants to pick heads or
Now
tails?
T-Bone can go first.
Okay. I'm fine with
Yeah,
going
Tbone,
first.
want to
Doesn't
go
matter.
first? All right, one
Yeah.
second. Let me start the timer.
Your destination is on the left.
Okay. Ready? Tbone, set, start.
Yeah, ladies and gentlemen of the Red Room, Blue Room, your honor bell, everybody in the comment section, thank you guys so much for tuning in. Right now, we are talking about whether Black people should remove themselves from white society. My statement is going to be no to that claim. Very simply put, there have been a lot of things that have happened over the course of time as it pertains to slavery, our people being in bondage and the subjugation of our people. That does not entail that we then have to up and leave and run away from the situations that have been put in front of us. We have been resilient through everything that has been put in front of us, any barrier that's been put in place. Um, excuse me, we have increased as it pertains to representation within the government. We have a claim towards reparations. And with us leaving, that does not include white supremacy being destroyed in any way, shape, or form, especially if there is no reason for them to destroy white supremacy, which means wherever we go, we will still be affected by the society. So the only answer would be for us to increase our political power here, make sure that we are doing everything as far as being able to benefit within this society, to diminish white supremacy as much as we can and flourish within this society. The answer is not to remove ourselves from white society in any way, shape, or form. With that being said, thank you guys so much for pulling up and let's get into it.
Perfect. Queen, let me know whenever you start. I'll start the timer, okay?
Did you start the timer? Okay, I'm gonna just go.
Whenever you start, I'll start the
Yeah, yeah,
timer.
yeah. Okay, so first off, I'm not arguing hatred or races can't coexist. I'm talking about why myself and other Black leaders historically believe that separation is stronger, independent Black communities. It makes sense. If we're talking about separation, even after slavery, segregation, redlining, all this discrimination still exists, violence of Black communities started. We're not questioning whether integration alone is the protection of Black people. We can still separate and still hold these same political powers. Separating communities is not segregation. No one is removing themselves from white society as a whole, but building Black equity within our own communities, such as schools, businesses, banks, these have historically referenced the safety and self-determination of Black people. So even today, we could still see these wealth gaps, school like disparities, housing inequalities. So my argument is, if integration is working completely, then why do these gaps still exist even generations after? That's my time, Bill.
You guys can begin.
Separation is not it's not unequal, right? So it's not a division, it's not divisive. Every group, every community builds around their own shared culture and interests. Even religious communities, we have indigenous reservation, HBCUs, all the whole nine. Just because white supremacy can still exist doesn't mean that separation isn't still going to be self-determination and self-preservation of the Black community.
I guess we just
Oh, they say
disagreed
they
on
can't
what's up.
hear.
Goodness, bro. What the fuck? Let's take a quick pause here. I'm gonna pause this timer. Let's figure something out real quick because this is kind of important anyways. Do you not believe that we're, per our last conversation that I remember on this, the problem was white supremacy. Anywhere we go, white supremacy would still exist. So the answer was to remove ourselves from white society. I don't have an issue with with um um with hubs, if that makes sense. Like, for example, like Chinatown, right? I think that that's
Mhm.
beneficial for Asian individuals. Same thing for us with HBCUs, but we're still living within white society. So are you not making the statement that we should separate completely from white society?
No, that was never the claim. Separating and segregating are two different things. You can still separate by creating your own community, but at the end of the day, setting up your own community, you agreed that that was a form of separating from white society, which no, I don't disagree with that. If you're going to set up a community tailored to Black people, you're going to fund your own schools, create your own banks. That is going to be the definition of separation in this particular argument. I'm still for separating and creating our own self-determination, self-determining communities. But I'm not, but in your particular opening, I guess I'm still on the same page as you. I don't.
Well, because
You
that's not
guys.
how I remember that conversation happening. I remember us talking about the detriment of white society to Black individuals wherever we've resided since we've been in this country, and that it doesn't make sense for us to be here. We talked about individuals integrating into society, and you said that that was a bad thing. Now we're saying that the separation within that is not. I'm confused.
No, what I said was legal integration is not the same thing as overall 100% equality. Legal integration did not solve the problem. But the thing is, the preliminary conversation that we had is the reason why I said revamp the premise and come back. But you were still bent on having the same premise and running the debate so we can just continue it. I still believe that legal integration is not the only resolution to the problem. Because even with legal integration, Black Americans are technically given rights decades ago, but the wealth gaps, inequality, unfair incarceration, et cetera, those imbalances still exist.
Okay, so then
Is the
let's take
timer
this.
still on pause?
No,
Do you still
yes,
want me
the
to
timer is
pause
still,
it?
yes. Pause the timer. Nobody can hear you because you left and like you hit a bad spot. So like I started the timer and then I paused it. But just so that we're on the same page, because I was the one who offered the premise of we should not separate from white society, you're saying that you don't necessarily agree with that then.
Correct. Separating from white society is exactly what I'm talking about, Tbone. Creating our own communities, schools, etc. Would that not be separating from white society if it's predominantly black, if it's created by black for black?
No, because that's still within white society.
Okay, but then I
We are
guess the
still
argument would
operating
just
off
have to
of the dollar.
continue.
Yeah, that's why I'm trying to refine the premise here, because, and this is what I figured was going to happen, because we run into that issue. So then the question just becomes, what are you defining this as then? If it's not like separation, or if it is separation, then what's the word that we're using here?
Separation.
Okay, so then we're on the same page here. So you agree with what I was saying. Is there a purpose in moving forward with the debate then?
Yeah, because if that's that's your rebuttal. Your rebuttal is that you disagree, but I'm still saying that I understand that separating, right? Creating schools, communities, etc., is the definition of separating. If it's predominantly black, if it's created by black people for black people, isn't that separation?
Okay, no.
Okay, I see what's going on here.
Should I restart the timer or no?
No, don't restart the timer, please. Let us figure this out, and then we can move forward. Because I made a statement. She said she doesn't agree with it.
Okay,
Now she does agree with it, and we're getting
all right.
confused. So we got to. Okay. And so I don't have any other thing here. I mean, if you want to provide another premise, that's fine. When we talked about the separation last time, we talked about the detriment of white society and why it made sense for us to separate from those individuals so that white supremacy does not reign over our people. And you gave multiple examples. I brought up the Civil Rights Act. I talked about how that was beneficial for our people, anti-lynching laws. I talked about the fact that we increased certain things within the dollar amount, for example, right? What you told me was, well, that's not enough, because even anti-lynching laws being in place, there's still lynching that's taking place in 2024, I believe is when this conversation, or 2025. And so the
I'm
answer was
not
the complete
confused.
separation.
Mhm.
Hold on just a second, so I can be clear. The answer was the complete separation of white society, because white supremacy is always in the equation. Now it seems like things are kind of shifting to saying, well, technically it is okay if we're in white society. There's just a little separation that I call, which isn't a complete separation. It's just us creating HBCUs in certain towns that are specifically black, still within white society, which doesn't make sense.
I never said that. I said that the separation that I'm speaking of is exactly what you just said. Because even with those laws in place, the inequalities and the disparities still exist. Creating and building up our own communities is necessary. In your opening statement, excuse me, if I'm not mistaken, you said stand and fight against the systems that are already in place. T-Bone, the conversation can still continue. I'm not confused.
Yes, because if we are to completely separate from white society, my claim is that white supremacy still runs supreme. We get up as black people and move to Africa, white supremacy is still here within Western society. That's what I mean when
Never
I
made
say
a
that.
claim about moving to Africa.
I never stated that you said this. I was going based off of the previous conversation that we absolutely had, which was the complete separation from white society because white supremacy was in the equation. This was the reason why I asked for this before, and now we're here.
Your argument is your opening statement is still relevant. I don't see why you don't just move forward with the debate that you set up with your rebuttals. I don't see why you think that I'm confused or that I don't know how to proceed forward with your opening statement.
But
So just run your
because
opening
if we
statement back
both,
and
no,
continue.
yeah, just so that we're on the same page, if we both agree to the premise that we should not separate from white society, which you just said, then why are we moving forward with this debate? We agree. That doesn't
I
make
never
sense.
okay.
We can run the tape back. I asked you that, and you said yes. You agree with that. I said, so you're saying that you don't think that we should separate from white society, give you examples, and you said, yeah, I don't agree with that. So we're on the same page. There's no reason to move forward.
Separating. So when you talk about separating from white society, you're talking about a blanketed statement on every single black person that exists in America. We're not
Yes, the
talking.
complete separation from white society. Yes.
Okay. And what I'm talking about is a separation. That separation is still on a voluntary basis, but whether or not separation is necessary was the argument. Yes, it is necessary, but that doesn't mean that you have some dystopian future where every single black person is going to be on board, which is what I told you in the previous conversation in the preliminary. This is going to be projected on what a future would look like if every single black person got on board with. Neither one of us would be able to debate, Tbone. And this is what I told you before. But if there are black people who separate themselves, whether or not these societies can uphold and these societies can be built, and there would be racial disparities would be at a minimum, because these groups exist, because these communities exist, would move us towards a situation where we run or have stake in a system that is for us, by us, is what we're talking about. But neither one of us is going to be able to argue what a society would look like if every single black person got on board. And this is what I told you in the prelims. That's not possible. But if we're going to argue whether a separate society is effective, then yes, we can. We can move forward with that. We can move forward and discuss whether or not you believe that societies that can be for black people, for self-determination and protection and empowerment, to remove us from underneath supremacy.
But Queen, we agree with that. And just to be clear, I remember responding to this before, that most of our people would absolutely say that we're oppressed. And I just looked this up. 75% of Black Americans believe that they're experiencing racial discrimination currently. So we could go off of that understanding. 25% of us stay here. It doesn't matter. What we're talking about is what's beneficial for our people. So even if we operate off of that, 75% of us removing ourselves from white society. This was that conversation. This is what we talked about. I am so confused because now all of a sudden we're agreeing on the same thing. Of course, I'm not going to disagree with HBCUs. Why would I disagree with Prince George County? Of course, I'm going to agree with those things. I'm going to agree with Black-owned businesses because of white supremacy being in the equation. I would have never denied this, and people have seen me talk for years on this app. That would never be something that I would deny. So if that is
Exactly,
the case and you
we back
agree
in the
with this,
same period that we were in, Tbone. We talked about this
absolutely,
already. We
yeah.
talked
So
about
then
this
why?
already, and you
So
denied that
you,
we talked about it, because in the beginning of the fucking prelim, this is exactly what I said to you. When we were talking about separation, we were talking about the same exact thing that we're talking about now. And I said to you in the very fucking beginning 2 years ago that neither one of us is going to be able to argue a projected society. We would be projecting what we think society would look like based off of what, some fantasy premise. There's no possible way that you would talk about the eradication of complete white supremacy or racism altogether, nor can we project what society would look like if all black people were separate, happy, thriving. This is where we talked about this, and I told you that you needed to revamp what you meant by separate so that we could have an adequate debate. You said you did that. Now you're coming back with the same bullshit that you had 2 years ago. That's not what was said. So if you have the same premise that you had that I told you was not going to work, I feel like that was on purpose, nigga, for real.
no, it is not on purpose. Remember, if you remember correctly, our last conversation was about assimilation. And then we brought the premise. You didn't want to engage in it. And so we changed the premise. And then I made the statement. If I was to say, should Black people separate from white society? Would you be okay with debating this? You said yes. I said I would take up the position that we shouldn't. You said you're okay with taking up the position that we should. And now you're saying, no, we shouldn't. I don't think you're recalling that last conversation
That's not what
correctly,
I'm saying
Queen.
at all.
I don't.
That's not what I'm saying at all. What I'm talking about is, when in my opening statement, I am talking about separating from white society, but you tried to move the goalpost and talk about 100% separation. Separation is separation, whether everyone is on board or not. But talking about how separation can be beneficial does not mean that I have to argue about every single Black person and what some dystopian future would look like if every single Black person was on board. That was never the premise. Saying should Black people separate from white people is such a broad statement, and that is what I'm arguing. I am arguing separation. But you're now trying to move it and say, well, it has to be complete 100% separation. That was not discussed.
I didn't say it had to be 100%. And I responded to you by saying most Black people feel oppressed. I gave you 75%. So you could still argue that. And it seems as though you're doing everything in your power to not engage with this argument that you agreed to having. This is kind of a waste of time for the people. I'm kind of upset
How
because
am
I've wasted my
I keep
time
telling you to
preparing for
run
this
your shit
debate.
back. I'm not having this. I keep telling you,
But
I
there's
said,
no
start
reason.
your fucking opening over. That's all I
Queen,
said. I said, I'm
my opening
continuing with
statement.
it.
I'm gonna give you a dumbed down version of my opening statement. I said that it does not make sense for us to separate ourselves from white society. We have a claim to reparations. I told you that there have been benefits as it pertains to the laws, policies, and procedures that have been put in place. With us continuing to participate in white society, our people have gained more wealth. Hasn't been much, but more wealth, right? These are the things that I talked about within my opening statement, right?
And put a
The
one in the
unfortunate
chat if you
reality,
heard me
Queen.
tell him to repeat his opening statement and that I was prepared to continue with the opening statement that he previously gave. Put a
Queen,
one
but
in the
what I'm
chat.
telling,
No, I just told you, Tbone, that I am prepared to volley off of and continue with your opening statement. I'm
how
still
if we don't
prepared.
disagree? How? That doesn't make sense. Do you agree with anti-lynching laws?
That we have them, that they exist.
Yes.
Yes, they exist.
Okay, this is us participating in white society and white society changing laws for us. We agree. You agree with HBCUs operating off of capitalism, which is the dollar, right, within white society. We agree, Queen. There's no reason to move forward. This does not make sense.
It doesn't make sense
Am
to
I the
you.
only person that is confused here?
It's yeah,
Chat,
you are.
I'm sorry, chat. Is that not consistent? We are still participating in white society when we write up laws that say you cannot discriminate against Black individuals. This is still white society. That does not make sense. Let's take a. Oh my gosh, Bell. Let's see if we can get, if you're okay with this, Bell. Let's see if we can get some people up here to maybe explain this a little better on how we can push forward with this conversation. The premise is still the same. I still have my opening argument. You had your opening argument, but maybe we can get some help from the chat so that we can continue the timer and continue with the debate, or
Yeah,
just restart the whole thing.
yeah. Let the people up. But again, I don't understand. I thought y'all decided this. I'm
Yes,
confused.
we did, and I made the statement. She agreed to it, and now we're operating off of the same understanding. It doesn't make sense.
Tbone, debating, it doesn't matter if you guys agree. The skill of debating is being able to argue both sides. So what Queen is saying, what my twin is saying, right, is that it doesn't matter that y'all agree. She could still run the argument. So run the fucking argument. It's just it's for sport. Do it.
But
Yeah,
hold
yes,
on.
but
The
Queen, if
problem.
we are
Okay, the
arguing, hold
problem
on, Don,
is
give me a
Oh
second.
y'all,
If
I'm
we're
cleaning.
arguing,
So
yes, I hear you, but if we're arguing the same point, how is that like, what are we talking about? That's not constructive at all. We won't be able to see who's winning the debate because we're essentially arguing the exact same point. That doesn't
No,
make
no, no,
with
no.
sense.
Y'all are
defin.
you're
That's
no,
like
she
With
would
two
de-
people
hold
argue
on.
the
Give me a
arguing
side that
second. Give me
she's
a
abortion.
second.
supposed to. That's the point. She would
y'all
argue the
But the
Hold on.
whole
side that
point
she's
Give
of
me a
the,
supposed
second.
hold on.
to. Go
Let me
ahead,
pull
Dom.
up the definition of debate real quick so that everybody
okay.
understands
We
this
don't
real
we
quick.
don't we don't need all
Debate
that.
definition. No,
Have
because this is important, Greenlick. Forum discussion on particular topics in a public
it's
meeting,
not it's not
legislation, assembly, which
it's not green lick.
opposing arguments, right? This is opposing arguments. So if both of our arguments are the same,
They're
we
not
can't
they're
have a
not
debate because there's no opposition there. That doesn't make sense.
The issue is that Queen's
Can't you be
position.
conservative, Tom?
Yeah, if we're
No,
doing
the
that, then
issue.
fine.
Hold on.
I'll
The
just take
issue
the.
is that Queen's like definition of separate is not the
correct
the the same
as
definition that
yours.
So
Okay.
if she's saying that, okay, we just build the black community inside of white society, then they both agree because her definition of separate is what
You need to
T-Bone
be
agrees with.
discussing pragmatics. What does that society look like? How do you accomplish it? What does representation look like? What does your interaction with the greater white supremacy community look like underneath your ideal societies? This is what you guys need to discuss. You agree on big picture. You have to address the pragmatics.
We're not going to, I'm pretty sure we're not going to disagree with pragmatics here. I mean,
Well,
unless Queen can offer something, but
that was the derivation of the conversation from what I understand and what from your recounting of it.
no, that is not how it was, Memphis. We talked about a
Well, you have
simulation and how
you have
detrimental
It's
that
okay.
very
was to our.
sad. It's very sad that Memphis is correct because based on your opening statement, it does sound as though you're arguing. It's very sad that Memphis has to fucking be correct because by your opening statement, it is still a split in the premise. Whether we agree on some things, your opening statement, go over your opening statement again. I already said this. Redo your opening statement and I'll go off of that. I know what you said and I know what I was prepared to say back because your opening statement is not in complete agreement with my premise. It
What
can
do we
still
disagree
work.
with?
So in your opening statement, you said that because the dollar is still being used, that it's still integrating. I'm not talking about integration as a whole being the problem. What I am talking about is integration isn't the only issue that we're facing. The legal integration that we have set forth, I never deny that there are some legal protections, but those legal protections aren't the only thing that's keeping Black communities from thriving. Building independent system is a form of protection and empowerment for the supremacy that we're facing. Your opening statement is against that, saying that just because white supremacy still exists, that you think that a society can still fail. Exactly what Memphis was saying. I'm prepared to show how the societies can work to debunk what your opening statement said.
Queen, this is
I'm
exactly.
not
Oh my
confused.
God, this is exactly what I argued before, where I taught, and I brought the example of you of the anti-lynching laws. Right? White supremacy can still be in the equation and we can mitigate the damage to white society. I brought that up and you said, nope, doesn't work because there's still lynching that takes place in 2025. I was arguing that exact same point. We agree. This doesn't make any sense, Queen. I'm not disagreeing with that in any way, shape, or
Not
form.
one time did I argue that white supremacy wouldn't still exist, but because white supremacy does exist is the reason why self-preservation and protection empowerment of Black communities is necessary.
Right. No. Your premise was because white supremacy is always in the equation, it makes no sense for our people to continue to live in this society, right?
You're
Because
talking
we
about
were
2 years
always
ago
going
when
to
you
be
gave
affected.
examples, and I told you that some of those examples weren't going to work, and I told you to revamp. We're not talking about today. Your opening
We're
statement
not.
today,
So
I was willing to debate off of your opening statement.
I'm a little confused because the running theme has been that I've been running from you for damn near 2 years, and it was based off of that conversation. Now you're saying that it's not based entirely off of the conversation that we
What do
had 2 years
you,
ago. This is
T-Bone?
getting a bit
When I
confusing,
said it
Queen.
all, you're the only one confused. I never said that.
Oh, okay.
You keep bringing up the argument that we had or the discussion that we had 2 years ago into this debate, and I'm telling you that they're not. It's not the same argument that we had before. Any points that I argued against when I told you that your initial statement didn't make sense for a debate is not the same conversation we're having today. So I'm not sure why you keep bringing up what I said 2 years ago when I've said several times, run back your fucking opening statement and we can go from there. If you still think that the debate is pointless, then we'll go off of that. But you stopped me in the middle of our discussion to say like, oh wait, we agree. But in your opening statement, it doesn't sound like we do.
No, we absolutely do agree. We're
Okay.
clarifying that now. I just told you that we agree. We'll run the
So
tape back as well. But hold on just a second.
so when I
This is what I
asked
think is
you,
probably. Go ahead.
go no, go ahead,
Yeah,
Jesus.
because just to be clear, you asked me a question on something, and I answered to that saying that I don't disagree with this. I don't disagree with what you're defining as separation. We have a difference in what we mean by separation, but if we get down to the nitty gritty of things, we would agree with how our society should be moving, right? Maybe small things, not even worth debating. So this is what I'm suggesting should take place. Maybe we should reschedule this debate for next Sunday. We can refine the premise for like the umpteenth time, and we can get down to a definitive of your beliefs so that we can have a constructive debate. Does that sound
We
like a
already
good
did
idea?
this. We already did
Yes,
this.
we already did. And now, as we see, we're right back in the same situation because you're arguing a point that I agree with, which
Yeah.
doesn't make any sense.
Tbone, please. I don't know how many times I had to say it, but okay, sure. I'm not rescheduling a fuck thing. I'm not available next Sunday, Tbone. I was available last Sunday. You weren't, or not available because of Mother's Day. Last time we discussed it, we came up with a date and time. We get here. You do your opening statement. I'm preparing to debunk some of the things that you said in your opening statement. You stop me in the middle of it and say, wait, this doesn't make any sense. You keep trying to double down on the fact that I'm confused when I said several times that I am not fucking confused and prepare to volley off of your opening statement. I think that if this was anybody else, we would see a clear tactic to delay the fucking debate, and I'm not putting up with it. I'm not. I'm done.
Okay. Let's continue with the debate then. Let's see how this goes. Okay. I have this at 1849. I'll just restart the 20-minute period. We'll continue off of that.
Run
Bell,
back
do you
You
your
want to
want me to
you
stop
continue?
run
that,
back
or
you
you
run
want me
back
to
your
do it?
opening because you
So,
if you think that your
do we
opening
want to
doesn't
redo?
Jesus
We want to redo the whole thing then. I just give my opening, you give your opening.
Yeah, if you want, let's just
yes.
start the whole thing.
Okay.
Give me
Let's
one
just
second.
restart the whole thing.
All right, T-Bone, go ahead. 2 minutes.
Ladies and gentlemen of the Red Room, Blue Room, Your Honor Bell, thank you so much. What we are talking about today is whether Black individuals should separate themselves from white society. I am of the belief that we should not separate ourselves from white society. It makes absolutely no sense for us to do so. We have claims to reparations, which our ancestors have fought so hard in building this country based off of labor that wasn't paid to them. And those things should be accounted for. We should absolutely have that claim. I have an issue with the fact that we have done so much as it pertains to increasing our representation within this country. Our wealth has increased as it pertains to this country, and we have done so much within laws, policies, and procedures. And to remove ourselves from this white society does no benefit because it doesn't help us in any way, shape, or form, especially if white supremacy is still in the equation. If white supremacy is the problem that we are experiencing, which is the reason why separation needs to happen from this society, right? Then removing ourselves from white society while white supremacy is still there does not make any sense. The only answer would be to increase our political power and fight white supremacy while it is still here, as we've been doing successfully for multiple years within this country.
Perfect. Thank you.
Okay, so again, I'm not arguing that races cannot coexist, but that separation and stronger independent Black communities make sense. So even after all of the laws that you just discussed and all of the fight and blood, sweat, and tears that Black people have put into the system that still is disparaging us, is not what I'm arguing. I'm arguing against the fact that you believe that because we put in so much effort that we shouldn't separate. That is what I get from your opening statement. But even within the system that exists, that we have absolutely infiltrated, we have absolutely made ourselves representatives, we have absolutely been able to have some laws in place against certain things, but legal representation is not the only part of the system that is disparaging to our community. So I feel as though even though integration alone was not enough to actually protect Black people or create the type of equality that we're looking for. Because even today, there's still huge wealth gaps, school disparities, housing inequality, um, incarceration inequalities. So if these gaps still exist generations later, then what is the purpose of continuing to think that separation is bad when our own communities and pouring back into our own communities could strengthen us, even with these systems still in place?
All set, Queen?
Yeah.
All
Let me
right,
know
let
when
me
you're
see.
ready for the 20-minute timer.
Yeah. No, I'm ready.
Great.
Start up. Go ahead.
All right. Do you want to respond to the disagreements, Queen, or?
No, go ahead.
Okay. Yeah. So the separation means us moving apart from, right? Meaning that white supremacy, white individuals, right? That is where the problem comes into play, right? The system as a whole, those white people that benefit from the system is where the problem comes into play. So I'm just trying to figure out what exactly do you mean when you say separation?
So when I'm talking about separation, I'm talking about community building. I'm talking about, you gave an example earlier of a Chinatown. So we have religious communities, indigenous reservations, things like that. Cultural districts exist everywhere. But when we talk about separation of Black people, all of a sudden it becomes this idea that this separation is different from the other types of separations that we already see. But
Right.
self-determination is not automatically, should not automatically be treated differently than any of the other separations that we see where communities are thriving within their own operation of things, pouring back into their own communities, creating businesses, things like that.
Yeah. So I think pouring back into your communities is a great thing. I think that that's awesome. However, the reason that we're pouring back into our communities is because white supremacy is still a problem. The oppression of our people, the degradation of our people is still happening at mass, right? When we take a look at things like the poverty rate, the amount of spending power that we have compared to our white counterparts, right? It does not make sense what you're saying because we're still having to operate within white society. That capital is still there. Chinatown is a prime example. They are not separate, right? They are a hub, right? They still operate, for example, in the part of New York, right? But they're still in New York. They're still operating off of the dollar. So that doesn't make sense because they're not separated. The insurance policies that are written on certain buildings covering those skyscrapers are the same insurance policies that are working. And if that's white supremacy, I'm hoping you would agree with that, right? Those same insurance policies would apply to those buildings in Chinatown. So it's still white supremacy that they're operating under. Would you not agree with that statement?
The statement that because the dollar is created by white supremacy, that we're still participating.
No, the entire system, right? So we're talking about not necessarily just the dollar, but we're talking about the systems of, for example, contracts, right? Like that's another prime example of that. The way that these contracts are written within law, they still have to abide by when they're operating in New York and Chinatown. You would agree with that, right?
Yeah, so what I'm talking about, so what you're saying actually supports my point, because the argument is not that we move to some other planet or invent a new currency. Is about control and the independence within the system that already exists. So so that's why I asked you earlier, are you supposing that we operate under a completely different system, a completely different currency? That's not my argument at all. It's about ways to control and have independence within a system that already exists, centered around our community interests, and building wealth that circulates within our own communities. Because at some point, if we're going to be technical, even if the dollar starts off as the same dollar that funds white supremacy, that dollar continues to circulate for generations. It becomes a black dollar.
Absolutely. In order for us to be able to change these things, for example, the way that insurance policies run, right? They can change certain provisions within those insurance policies for them to be able to move homes, move businesses, to create things for like highways, skyscrapers, things of that nature. We want to change that for Black society, correct? Especially the way that it's been hit in Memphis, East St. Louis, things of that nature. We want to change that, correct?
Yeah, correct. Because we see this in even like farming co-ops, right? Where people
Mm-hmm.
grow their own food and they take the dollar out of the mainstream grocery stores. They fund these co-ops. These co-ops go to initiatives that mean something to the particular community, but that doesn't mean that these people don't believe in eating anymore. They just don't shop at the mainstream grocery store. So we even have religious groups that have private schools and businesses, or immigrant communities. So just because the dollar is funded, you're talking about a full separation, because we still use these particular dollars or abide by these same laws pertaining to each state that you're talking about. So it doesn't disprove what I'm saying. It's not total physical separation from society as a whole. It's creating an independent, not dependence on a system that historically hasn't treated Black people equally.
No, there would still be dependence. And what we're talking about is a hub. Because my next question is, how do we change those insurance policies? Like, how do we change the laws and how they're governed on our people?
Which insurance policies and laws are you
Yeah, so
referring to
there's
particularly?
yes, there's again insurance policies, and then we have our government that regulates the insurance corporation, allowing them or not allowing them to do certain things, right? How do we change those laws?
The same way that we always have. Being in your own society where things are being funneled back into the community, you're talking about systemic dependence. Okay, so if insurances and like banking systems, lending practices, all these things that you've named, these policies and these corporate rules, yes, they can affect entire communities, but how much control they have in these communities is what I'm talking about. If we have our own economic stability, then we can have more control over the way that these things are overseen.
That's not necessarily how that works. We had our own financial independency as it pertains to hospitals, and because, like I said, the insurance policies, but more to the point, capitalism and us having to compete within capitalism, it never worked out to the point that now we only have one black owned hospital, and that one black owned hospital is technically owned by the government. Right. So in order for us to change these things, it doesn't matter where we go. Tulsa as a prime example, right? They're going to shut these things down. And if they're not going to bomb it, they're going to be witty with these contracts, with certain laws, policies, and procedures to affect us that way. The only way we change that is through that power so that it doesn't affect us. My question becomes, how do we get that done?
So you're talking about if people are using the same infrastructure and the same laws and same institution, then you're trying to say that the issue that it's not considered to be separate.
Yes, because we're still operating in white society.
So if we're talking about redlining and housing issues, if we fund or have enough black owned businesses or these communities set up to where these housing issues are no longer a problem, you can still have your own federally owned banks. I'm not federally owned, but black owned banks that still abide by the same laws when it comes to like fair housing or housing conditions. That doesn't take away the fact that if there is a control within this particular community for a specific race, that means that some of the things that are happening, such as redlining or racial inequality, doesn't happen. But you're saying that, well, what about the insurance and what about this? Just because these insurance companies are historically white owned doesn't mean that we still can't move to own our own.
Right. Yeah. So just so that we're aware, because that was getting to my next point. It's not just about the banks. It's about the real estate, because we have to buy the land from somebody and we have to buy the homes from someone. We have to build up the infrastructure, right? We have to protect them with insurance, right? We're talking about all of these moving parts. We would have to be in control of all of those, right? We only own about 1.2% of all banks, if I'm correct in my assessment there. I could be wrong on that. It could be 7%. Regardless, we would have to have control everywhere, right? In certain hubs in order for us to be able to flourish within this society. My question still indexes back to, how do we get that done?
So what you're talking about is a complete lack of, what you're talking about is complete control, but there are still countries and certain governments that are still intact or interact with each other without losing any type of sovereignty. So if a black separate community is still trading or has some infrastructure that's still the same, it doesn't automatically mean that it's not independent. So if we're using that logic, then there's no country that's independent. There's nobody that's free. There's no nation. We all have a global trade system and banking systems, but we're talking about a different type of control, a different type of independence. So just because there are going to be some controls in political power, lands, laws, all these resources that you talked about, that doesn't mean that it's trades outside of a system or sharing the same infrastructure or connection that we still can't live independently. So that means that you're talking about total isolation. I'm talking about self-governance. I'm talking about reducing outside control, but you're talking about simply eradicating it, which is why I wanted to clarify that earlier. Because if we can't really argue a clear eradication of having these systems and infrastructures in place, because then we'd both be arguing some type of utopian society that we don't know. We'd have to project that. We'd have to guess this. But what I'm talking about is self-governance, reducing this outside control over Black communities, economics, politicals for our safety.
But that is exactly what I'm arguing, right? Because white supremacy, and you said this earlier, there is no independence. You're absolutely right about that. You and me would both agree that there's no place on earth that is not affected by white supremacy. Nowhere in Africa, nowhere in Western society, it's all being affected, right? And so the only answer is for us to be able to do that here where white supremacy resides, where we have shown that we can put a dent within that society. We have had representation within the Supreme Court, within Congress, right? We've had representation as it pertains to the president. We've had representation as it pertains to us being able to build these colleges and universities. We have shown that we are able to do this. That is the only answer. And in order for us to be able to do this, Queen, we would have to participate in white society. Obama, being the president of the United States, was participating in white society. That is what that is. And so I'm saying, to keep things consistent here and go back to my overarching point, the separation from white society does not make any sense. The only way that we're able to stop the issues that are plaguing Black Americans today is to participate in white supremacy and change the systems within so that they don't affect us, or at least mitigate how much they affect us starting out, until we get to the point where there is no effect. And just to be clear, we can argue this point regardless. An abortionist is a person who wants to eradicate abortions and get to the point where there is no abortion, right? So I don't understand why we can't argue that.
Yeah, but I never argued complete separation. And that's why I wanted to clarify that earlier. Governing your own communities and having more power and control than what currently exists is still separating, because multiple communities operate this way. So even in the example that I gave with the farmers co-ops, you're not removing yourself from a person who needs to consume food, but you're removing yourself from big corporate grocery stores and things like that, funding your own food as a growth source, getting in other farmer co-ops, making sure that all things are sourced locally, etc. That doesn't necessarily mean that you're completely separating yourself from the need to consume food. No way that it means that you're completely separating yourself from any government or infrastructure that currently exists. But how much control do you have in that is still separation. It's still a form of separation. But you're talking about, well, none of these things will change unless we do this. These things will give these communities self-government. These communities will have more power and control. No different than a farmer's co-op. You have more power and control over what you're consuming. It doesn't take away the fact that you still need to eat to sustain your life. No one is saying that I'm a superhuman who no longer needs to have food. I'm just somebody who's not participating in big box stores. So I created a farmers co-op with like-minded people who are the farmers, right? Which would be a community of farmers. Now we trade and do these things amongst ourselves. But does that mean that the FDA doesn't get involved? No. It doesn't mean that the FDA doesn't get involved and still make sure that these foods are sustainable or following these particular bylaws, but you're still not participating in grocery stores and you're still not funneling that money through corporate. The both can still happen. These farmers don't have to completely separate themselves from the laws that make sure that food is safe and edible, but they still don't have to participate in the big box stores that funnel different initiatives that these farmers may not agree with, such as different wars or the education system. So if these farmers are taking this money and putting it into an education system or funding programs where kids learn to grow their own food, creating a generation of people who know how to grow their own food, doesn't take away the fact that the FDA is still going to put regulations on how this food can be grown.
It doesn't matter. Like, poverty is still going to affect that society. I give you a prime example. Was Tulsa an example of this taking place?
But what does that have to, you said poverty can still strike this example that I gave?
Yes, and I'm giving you an example of that hub taking place, where Tulsa, Oklahoma, was a prime example of us doing that as a Black community. Correct?
Yes,
Did white supremacy come and shut that down?
correct.
Okay, so that is showing you as examples that even when we are doing the things that you are promoting for us to do, because we are still participating in white society, right? That is the outcome. The only way that that changes is if we have the power to be able to be in certain positions, whether it's politically, whether it's financially, to make sure that those types of things do not happen to Tulsa, Oklahoma, so
Yes,
that
but
it
what
doesn't
you're
happen in the
saying is
future to
that
Prince George County.
so the fear that white supremacy is a well and live and has had a history of destroying black communities is going to stop this. Like I don't think that that's progression. I think that
Well,
that's
that's incorrect. It's
regression.
not a fear, it's reality. It's taking place today. We have schools that are in Alabama that are making it to where white students can change their school, right? And move away from Mobile, Alabama, creating white only societies. And the funding is heavy within those schools. So this is still happening today. We're not getting away from
So
it. It's
so
reality.
appease. Oh, right. So we don't have to appease, nor do we have to feel like we need to coddle these different systems just because there are going to be people that are hateful that don't want to see this thrive. Just like with the farming co-op that I was talking about in my example, that doesn't mean that somebody can't come and set ablaze their fucking crops. But do you think that that's going to make them run to the big box stores and give up? Or are there going to be things in place knowing that this is a possibility? So I think that history is actually on our side because it provides a very clear picture of what could happen. And those protections can also be put in place, but there's never going to be 100% safety. We're not arguing this. That means we would have to go back to what I said previously. We would have to argue some type of utopian society where this shit doesn't happen. So just because it can happen doesn't mean that we shouldn't try to do it. And that's what it sounds like you're saying, is that because white supremacy is still a well and live and these things can be torn down, we should just stand and fight with what we got. And I disagree
Okay.
with that.
Okay. So that effect that you're talking about, that absolutely takes place. And again, we have to operate in reality. I just looked this up. 80% of Americans are visiting a farmer's market, but it says fewer than 5% to 12% of all Americans rely on these resources primarily, right? So most of our people are shopping in these mega markets, right? That is what they are doing. This is the reality that we live in.
I think we had 5 minutes. Bill said, okay, and just because most people have to rely on a big grocery store, a corporate grocery store in order to live, does not mean that the farmers co-op isn't working. Now, if
No,
that farmers co-op were able to continue their work and continue to fund these different programs, then maybe there could particularly be a projection where we can see a society where this is the majority. Maybe the big box stores become the minority. So when it pertains to black communities, I only use the farmer co-op as an example to show how communities who have a shared interest doesn't mean that they are no longer governed or that they don't have to abide by certain rules. But just because we have people that are still operating under the big box grocery stores and putting and funneling into corporate doesn't mean that these farmer co-ops don't exist and that they don't thrive and that they aren't important. The same with these black communities. If we self-govern and we have this control, we have this power to give back to our own, to stop redlining, stop the underfunding of schools, provide better education, provide better health care. Doesn't just because someone wants to run down to their fucking local urgent care doesn't mean that there can't be an urgent care in the black community with black doctors, black nurses. You can participate wherever you so see fit. That was never the argument, is to force all black people to stop participating in white supremacy as a whole. But the legal precedents that we have, the legal things that we have in place isn't enough. Governing our own societies and being able to set up our own for us, by us, is absolutely just as important as the laws that are currently still happening. That doesn't mean that we still don't need lawyers out there that are black to keep the inequality from happening. We need more. That is also governing. That is also governing our own fucking community. Yes, we need more fucking black legal teams. We need more black law firms. We need more black fucking doctors. We need more black owned hospitals. But that's because those hospitals are governed by the same laws as all the other hospitals in the USA doesn't mean that black people don't go there and get a whole hell of a lot better treatment, because why? We're there. That's separation. That's the type of separation that can combat the fucking laws that are in place that aren't working.
That is incorrect. Per what the definition of separation is here, which means that we would have to move ourselves a part of it. If your goal, excuse me, if your goal is to make sure that white supremacy does not plague our people, right? and you're talking about separation, and that is the goal, the only way for us to be able to do that would be to completely remove ourselves from white society. This would be a contradiction. You can't say that you want to.
Hi. Okay, who goes first for the closing statement? You went first, Tbone, so I think it's you, Queen.
I'm sorry, what did you say?
Who
Can
goes
you
first?
repeat yourself?
Okay, you go first for the closing statement because he went first for the opening.
Okay,
Whenever
I can
you're
do
ready.
that.
Whenever you're ready, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm ready. So at the end of the day, my argument, the debate is about self-determination and whether our communities have historically been oppressed, should have the right and should build independent power structures for protection and advancement of Black people. So Black separatist ideas, personally to me, is to understand why these beliefs even developed in the first place. They came from real historical experiences, and frustrations that still influence conversations about race and economics and inequality today. I still stand on the fact that self-determination is the best way to combat some of the things that are not working in our society, even if that same system is in place, doesn't take away from the fact that our society as Black people can still thrive even within that system. And that's where I yield my time.
Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, Your Honor, Bex, thank you guys so much for coming. I think that my point has been proven pretty clear here. That separation from white society does not work. Even when we're talking about the hubs, I do believe that it is definitely needed as it pertains to the mitigation of harm that plagues our people. But the complete separation is not there. And if you are talking about what separation is, fundamentally, that's what we're talking about. You would have to completely separate yourself from white society if you did not want for that to plague our people. And I'm not arguing for that. I believe that we have to stay where we are and continue to make the strides. California has shown a prime example for their push of reparations, and that would help our people tremendously. The increasing political power that we have while participating in white supremacy proves that point, right? I think that we're pretty much agreeing on most of those things. The corporations are going to corporate. The insurance companies are going to insurance. We know how these things are going to happen. In order for us to not be affected by these things, we have to continue to participate in white society. We cannot run away. And as a matter of fact, I think that running away from this society would be a spit in the face to our ancestors. Based off of what we know separating to be, that is what my opponent would have to be arguing here. And unfortunately, there was inconsistencies on that part as well, which we pointed out. We pointed out the multiple holes. We pointed out that white society is going to continue to show that they do not want Black individuals to succeed. So the only other answer would be to participate in white society and completely dismantle the structure of white supremacy and how that affects the Black community. Thank you.
Tbone. I'll let you guys know when the results are in.
Okay.
Everyone, thank you for being here with Red Room, Blue Room. Everyone, if you guys have questions, requests, come on up.
Hello?
Hello.
Age or anything?
What do you say? What do you say?
Do we gotta give our age up or anything?
We're not doing this, man. Like
Okay,
we're
bye-bye.
talking about the debate. Do you want to talk about the debate?
Yeah, I just don't know if we have to give our state, location, and age and who we supported, like every other channel. That's why I was asking for.
Amy, you want to make your comments?
Who, me?
Nah, Mimi.
Oh.
No, yeah, sure. Tbone. Tbone. In order to have a functioning, successful Black society, do we need white people?
I don't. I don't think that entails that per se, but that wasn't really the argument.
Your closing
It was
statement basically
though.
said, in order for, yeah, your closing statement basically said, in order for us to be able to get all that we need to work with white people. Do we need white people in order to have a functioning Black society?
Well, no, that
In
wasn't
order for,
what my closing
I'll slow it
statement
down.
was.
Let me dumb it down. I'll dumb it down. I'll dumb it down. In order for Black people to have their own communities, their own schools, their own hospitals, their own law. Oh, well, we have our own law firms, duh. Our own somewhat government inside, and all that kind of thing. Do banks, grocery stores, everything is just Black as hell. Do we need white people?
No, I don't think that's the case.
Then your closing
And
statement,
but if we're
the
hold
end
on,
of your closing statement made no sense. You literally just said, and everyone in the comments damn near said, what the fuck? You literally just basically
I
said
I
that
didn't
in
get to
order
finish what
to
I was
do this,
saying.
we need white people. Okay, well, go ahead. I know
Yes.
it's going to be a
So
problem for some reason running this live back to the closing statement. Is that going to be a problem, Belle? Because I would
no,
No, I
love.
have no reports. I have not been
Okay,
reported, no.
perfect.
no. So
Because your
if I
closing
do
statement.
remember
Okay, so go
correctly.
ahead, clarify. Mhm.
Right. So just to be clear, if you're talking about black individuals being successful, there are ways for us to completely separate ourselves from white society and still be successful. What we would be talking about at that point would be the eradication of the white race. Or at
I'm
least
not
the
talking
eradication.
about.
What?
Wait, wait,
Hold on,
wait. Slow down.
I
No, no,
am
no,
still
no, no.
speaking. I am Mimi. Come on,
No. You're
Mimi.
asking me what I'm
Mimi,
saying.
come on. Yes, I am responding to what you are
No,
saying.
that's not.
Can I
That's not
please
what I'm.
finish?
Sir, Tbone. I'm asking you a question about what you
Mimi,
said.
I
No,
in order for
T-Bone,
me to be
stop.
able to
T-Bone,
answer you, I
you're
have to
not
be able to
answering me.
finish
You're
what I
trying
am
to say
saying.
what I'm saying. I'm not
I
asking you
need
to
to be
clarify
able
what
to
I'm.
finish the statement I am
Okay,
making,
then.
Mimi.
Okay, then
Can
finish
I
telling me about
please
what you had to
finish
say.
the statement I am making?
Go ahead and tell me what you had to say, not me.
Thank you. As it pertains to what I believe, there is a way for us to be able to be successful without white people. That would include the eradication of the white race, though, or at least some type of eradication within Western society and how these systems operate. Because as I told you, there is not a single place on planet Earth where these black individuals reside where white supremacy does not affect them. However, what I said in my closing statement was that we have to participate within white society, not that we needed white people. That is not what I
Statement said
said.
that I asked the question. So are you confused about
Jesus.
statements and questions? Because I literally asked you a question and then asked you to clarify. I, paraphrasing, literally said, are you saying we need white people in order to have a functioning society? Belle, we're gonna circle back on this because when you hear what you just said, I need you to tell me how that does not translate. That in order for us to have a functioning society, our own community, we need white people. You just told us that we have to deal with white supremacy. We have to work with them. Why? You
Because
just
that
said, wait, literally, you just said that your solution was to eradicate it. Your solution was to get it the fuck out of here. Your solution for us to have a successful black community, a successful black life, if white folks didn't exist, I'm not for the eradication of people. What I'm asking you is, do we need white people in order to have a functioning black society? And I only ask that because of what your closing statement, what you said.
let me make sure I'm on this. So when you say a successful black society, are you talking specifically in the context of America and how we live today? Do we
I'm
need
talking
white
about
people?
black.
Are
Black,
you
period.
Because
talking all
I don't give a.
encompassing?
she's saying that
Okay.
in your closing argument, you said that it would be a spit in the face of our ancestors to
Yes,
not
Lord.
continue to combat the system that's already in place. And it does sound like, which I said and argued against, it does sound like you believe that just because the system exists, that separate communities shouldn't exist, that we should stand right where we are and fight for what we have. When in all actuality, setting up our own communities is the best way to honor our ancestors because those were things that they did try to do. In your argument, you stated this, and these communities were eradicated by white supremacy. So failing to rebuild them based off of the fear that it will happen again is more so a slap in the face because what it sounds like is you think that stand and fight is the right thing to do. And what Mimi is saying that what her interpretation of what you said in your closing and your opening is the stand and fight means we need to work with and against the white supremacy instead of trying to build our own. Even if this system is still in place, we could still self-govern. And you don't believe that. You believe that we would stand and fight and stand right where we are and continue progress that you think was started by our ancestors.
That is not what I meant by that. And just to be clear, I think I understand it now. It's because there's a fundamental disagreement of what we were talking about with the definition of separation. You think that Tulsa is a prime example of separation. I disagree with you because it still operates within white society. What I said was the complete separation, which I said in my closing, the complete separation of white society would be a spit in the face to our ancestors, not the hubs that we operate off of today. And I made that abundantly clear. So, go ahead, Belle.
I've got the scores. I'll start off with Queen. Queen, respect for the other team, 5. Information, 5. Rebuttal, 4. Use of facts, 5. Organization, 5. Understanding, 5. Total, 29. Tbone, respect for the other team, 5. Information, 4. Rebuttal, 2. Use of facts, 4. Organization, 4. Understanding, 3. 22. Thank
Boom,
you.
go to Dynamite.
Congratulations, Queen.
Thank you.
Just so that we're clear, Mimi, that's what I meant when I said the definition of separation and how we were agreeing to this. Because if we're talking about the complete separation from society, right? That's what I'm talking about. If she's talking about creating the hubs, I don't disagree with that.
But that's still
We
a
don't disagree there.
separation, though, T-Bone. That's still a separation. So in our prelim, we talked about this. We understand that separation. And if we're going to get technical, you mentioned Africa at one point. Due to colonization, there's no sovereign nation that doesn't have to rely on another nation in order to trade, in order to get goods, etc. But that doesn't mean that these societies can't thrive by putting back into their own communities and making sure that generational wealth is not optional. It's a fucking guarantee. That is still separatism. You can still live under the same laws and still be governed by the same things, but that doesn't mean that those laws can't change, right? You can still separate. Having a whole fully black owned law firm is still separate, but that doesn't mean that those law firms don't abide by the same fucking laws. It just means more protection for the people who look like us when these laws come for us. That's still separate.
More protection as it pertains to a hub. It's not separation. Those law firms still defend those individuals within white systems.
And those
We are
white
talking about the
systems
criminal
can still
justice
be,
system.
yes, and those white systems
Yes,
can
is the criminal
still
hold
be
on just a second. Is the
changed.
criminal hold on? Is the criminal justice system a part of white supremacy?
Yes.
Then they are still participating in white society, correct?
If you were going to say participating as in becoming a lawyer that defends against these laws, then okay, yes, but that does not mean that it's
So
still
then they're
not
not
separate.
separating.
Yes, it is. You can
No,
have a
it's
separate
not. They're
community.
still participating.
Absolutely it is, because having a separate community that is, you're governing your own community. If your black institution as a law firm, right, for example, is funding only black schools, just because funding in your definition can come from a white system doesn't mean that that system is being overtaken by a black community, because without this black law firm funding into these schools, they might not get funded under the current system that we have. That's still separate. That's still us relying on ourselves to get the fucking job done. Most of these communities that are disparaged by the system. So if more black people had enough funding to change these neighborhoods that we call hoods, the ghetto, just because our system is the reason why we have these communities that are separated by race in the first place, due to redlining, zoning, the Great Migration, etc., doesn't mean that having our own system, not our own system, but our own funding and being able to create this generational wealth and close up this fucking wealth gap, you're saying that that's not separate because we should completely have our own system, our own currency. But again, we can't, neither one of us can argue this without having to project what this utopian society would even look like. There's no facts. That's what I told you in the prelim. We wouldn't be operating off of facts to talk about what could happen or what it would look like. We're not writing the next fucking Divergent series here. Neither one of us is going to be able to project what it would look like if all Black people never had white supremacy. That would be a completely crazy argument. But we're working with what we know right now is that these communities absolutely do exist. HBCUs being historically Black doesn't mean that you're still not, what is the word? You're still not participating in the institution of higher education, which was set up for fucking white people. They never fucking wanted us to read, Tbone.
Right. You're
They
not
never even wanted
separating.
us.
I agree.
Yes, it is.
No, it is
Having
not.
our own fucking colleges so that Black people can have higher education in a system that didn't even want us to fucking read is absolutely separate.
It's still degrees. It's still operating in white society. They're still getting funding
And if
federally
we
from our
never would have
government.
created those historically Black universities and colleges, then there would be a lot more Black people without fucking degrees.
Oh, I agree with you. This is imperative that we create these things. We don't have
So
additional.
then you believe in the separation.
No, that's where we're disagreeing, Queen. Again, the separation portion talks about, and just to be clear, what is the goal of what you're trying to do? Is it to make sure that white supremacy does not affect Black people?
Dude, she
White
said it
supremacy.
1,000 times.
Got you.
Autonomy and self-determination.
She could go ahead and explain it. Go ahead, Queen.
So again, in order for us to even have the conversation honestly, we would not be able to discuss whether or not white supremacy is ever going to go away. Okay. Just because white supremacy can still be prevalent does not mean that Black society, Black communities or other communities and marginalized groups cannot exist. The amount of, what's the word? The more manpower that you have, then yes, you can mitigate these circumstances. But there are always going to be bad people who operate under white supremacy that do not want to see these things thrive. Having that historical knowledge, in my opinion, as I stated in the debate, sets us up on a higher footing because we do have history to tell us what may come, and you can still put things in place to try to mitigate this. But no, we can't completely eradicate white supremacy. Even if we all move to Africa, these different countries have been colonized and still live under a westernized idealization. It's been touched everywhere. Everywhere's been fucking touched by white supremacy. There isn't a corner of this fucking planet that hasn't been touched by white supremacy. This is ridiculous for you to even say that, oh, you think that this is going to get rid of it. I never argued that it would get rid of white supremacy. But if we have more manpower behind us and we have more self-determination, more self-governing societies, then we could absolutely remove ourselves from underneath the strict thumb of white supremacy. Yes, I do think that.
That is what you argued before, but I'll just leave that there because Mimi has a question. Or Memphis.
Go ahead, Mimi.
Last question. You said you both talked about lawyers. Okay. Tbone, you believe that we should be working with the system in order to, I guess, move forward in progression. That hasn't really worked thus far because of the system itself. So I want to know again, I'm just going to ask you again. How about this? Do you think that we should have Black lawyers?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Do those Black lawyers work within our criminal justice system?
Yes.
Okay. How's that working out?
It's not working out good, and I think it's because we don't have control within that within that system.
Not even close
Wait,
to
no.
being true.
Wait, Queen, hold on. It isn't working out because we don't have control, but we're working with the white people, Tbone. I ask you again, do we need white people in order to have a functioning Black society?
Specifically in the context of America, if that's what you're talking about, then yes.
Okay, wait. Fuck America. Black folks literally are on every continent around the globe. Do we need white people?
No. Yeah. If we're bringing the globe into this equation, I need for you to understand there are multiple ways for us to be successful as a Black community. Not all of them does everybody agree with. Not all of them are realistic, but there are multiple ways that we could be successful. One of those is by participating in this society, right? Eradicating those systems that harm our people. The other would be a complete separation of white society and the eradication of Western society. right?
Okay.
That is also an
So,
answer. So I'm telling,
okay.
hold on,
So,
just a sec. Hold on.
okay.
I'm about to land right here. What I'm
Mhm.
saying is if you are bringing the globe into this equation, right? No, I don't necessarily think that we would need white people in this society. In the context of America, we absolutely do.
Okay.
At
So,
least right now,
so we do need them. That's
yes.
that's all. Oh, but when I asked you at first, you felt the way about it. So
Right,
your answer is yes.
within the context of America
Okay,
specifically, and
in
the
the
way that we're
context of America, and
yes,
so Queen, we have black lawyers. Yes,
Correct.
we are working within the United States criminal justice system. Yes,
Correct.
how's that working out?
What do you mean by what? What has that working out? I think it's working out great. I
How is
think
it working for black people working within the United States criminal justice system? How's that working out?
Think
I
about
think I think
incarceration rates.
Sir,
I was
sir,
just about
I
to
don't let
say
you.
correct.
that.
Correct. But my thing is that what I truly believe that there could be more progress. Yes, there's always going to be room for improvement. But I
Uh-huh.
also have to think that most of the Innocence Project was started by black lawyers because of the unequal incarceration of black people.
Okay,
Right.
so
So
go ahead, go ahead, go
go
ahead.
ahead. But no, ask your question. Ask your
No,
follow up.
no. So, do we need white people in order to have a functioning black society?
No, but according to Tbone, because the dollar is the same, then it's a technical need. But at the end of the day, that means that nobody is free then. Even
Yes, but
communities, even countries and communities that are solely and predominantly one particular ethnicity or race is still operating off of other trade systems, etc. So what I was gathering, what T-Bone was saying, that because the white dollar is still there, but at some point it's not a white dollar anymore because that's just how economy works. If I circulate money just between you and I, right? I only buy from you, you only buy from me. Everything that we fucking need, clothes, food, shoes, everything comes from just me and you, Mimi. Just because you got a loan from a white fucking bank, baby, that money is black after how many years? After how many years are we sustaining each other if we're only operating with each other? If you sew all my fucking clothes and I never go to another retail store again, are we not building a black community even if that money started off in a white bank?
yes, we
Well,
are.
no, we
Okay.
absolutely. Just to be clear, it's not just the money side. We're also talking about the system, which Mimi is absolutely talking about. And I just have a question here, right? Incarceration rates in the mid 2000s reached 6.5 times that of our counterparts, right? Back in the 1960s, it was 5 times our white counterparts. My question to you becomes, right, because you talk about has that been successful? Would you say that increasing 1.5 times more than our white counterparts as it pertains to representation within the criminal justice system is success?
No,
So
no.
then there
But I
has to be
also don't
another
think.
answer here because
No,
I'm
no, no.
agreeing with you.
But wait, no, no, no,
It's
no,
not.
no. No, it's not successful. And I also don't think that we need white people in order to have a functioning black society. Clearly, working in the system is that. Now, look here. Okay. I understand working the system in order to try to get what we need. I get that. We literally live in a capitalistic society, period. Period. I get that. We got to do what we got to do until we can find something else. That's why I think everyone on this, well, me, you, Queen, and Shay, because I don't know this other person, believe that we should be exercising our civil right to vote, right? Hopefully get the right people in the chair where we need them to be at. And so we can have representation in government, in corporations, everything. It's necessary that we are in those rooms. We always want to be seen. It's
But
necessary to be seen. But you are saying that you literally said it was a spit in the face of our ancestors to not work with white people. But
no,
I
that's
know
not. No,
you
no, no, no,
know.
no. No, I clarified that, right? I'm talking about the complete separation, which I thought you were alluding to. But just to be clear, we need those white people. You would agree with that statement.
No, I do
Because
not.
if hold on just a second, because you said that it was important for us to be able to utilize our political power. Understanding the political power game and the way that it's working now, white society has control over that. So if
Yes.
you're arguing that black individuals should exercise that right, that is going through white individuals as well, especially when you're talking about us being the representatives. Because in order for us to get to those positions, how do we do that? Well, we have to win
Yes,
the
but
votes. How do we win the
an
votes? We would
unfair
have
statement though.
no, it
That's a
absolutely is a fair statement. Those white
no
people would be
because
needed for the representation, would it not?
Yeah, but at the no, because yes, because the
What?
system is already in place. Yes, but the
Right. So we
system
would need them
already.
still. There we
But
go.
need, but when you say need though, when you say that separating, because in your closing argument, it does seem as though, and I know you clarified that already, but she's saying that because you said, oh, it would be a spit in the face of what our ancestors built, right? You talked about the unpaid labor as in slavery. Just because these things happened and we happen to live in that same society where they claimed we was free and dumped us into a society that was built for them by them, we have to make do with what we have. Making
Yes.
do with what we have is not the same as relying on them. Because
Yes.
at the end of the day, even if, right, because this is again goes back to the utopian society, everything would have to be eradicated and restarted. And neither one of us could argue what it would look like if the majority was the other way around. If this America was built for Black people or any other marginalized group other than white people, we can't argue that. But using what we have does not necessarily mean that we have to give credit or otherwise pay homage to the fucking white supremacist system that was meant to attack us
No,
just because we live under it.
I never made that statement. It's
That
almost
is
like
what it
conclusions
sounds
are
like.
drawn, but it's almost like
That's
conclusions are drawn from things that I never said. I
then
don't
maybe
But
understand
you
you're
how that's the
don't
closing.
case.
actually hear yourself
That's what
then
it
Wait.
because
sounds
But
like.
those.
oh,
Your
Hold
closing
on.
statement
What
did
part of
sound
what
like
I
that.
said? Hold on. What part of what I said
Wait.
brought you to that conclusion, Mimi?
Because conclusion means closing. Done. And that was your closing statement. That's why. I would have
Okay, so
never,
then I guess we can clear that up because I already said that you misunderstood what my closing
I didn't
statement was, and
misunderstand. I heard
No,
you.
no, no, no. Hold on, Mimi. I clarified this for you because I said this is exactly what I stated in my closing statement. I said the complete separation from white society. That is what I
well
said.
you
It,
did reiterate yourself even in
okay,
this conversation um
we
and
can run the
say
clip
like oh
back.
well if we're using these systems then we are relying on white people and the thing is that utilizing a system that we have no choice everybody in every country has no choice but to live under the government that was established well before they were born. So that's not when I say it's not a fair statement to try to get this gotcha and say, well, we're still utilizing white people because the system was built by white people. Yes. Many a
But
country has been colonized in their operation. Sometimes their government systems mimic ours, right? But at the end of the day, just because there was a system that was in place well before anybody living right now was born, doesn't mean that it's a reliability factor where we are relying on the white system that was put into place because we have no choice but to live under it. So to make something of it, separating these communities, having more communities that are far more independent, funneling the black dollar into black interest, into community interest is the way to be able to operate under a system that we have no choice but to operate under. But you did say again, even in your clarification, you are still saying, well, if you're using the same system, then you're technically relying on these white supremacists. That is what you're saying, T-Bone.
I didn't say relying on. I said you are still participating in white society. I never said rely. It's almost like people are purposely like
No, 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 no.
changing
Okay,
the
fine.
verbiage
No,
of
no,
what I
no.
said. Hold on.
Queen, Queen, to
Hold
be
on.
fair,
Stop.
wait.
I want to be able to.
T-Bone, T-Bone, to be fair, to be
I want to be
fair,
able to finish what I'm saying.
Queen,
I want to be able to
you
finish
did
what I'm
use the
saying.
word rely. You used the word rely. T-Bone did not use that word, to be
Yeah,
fair.
Okay.
but just to be clear though, right? All I'm simply stating, because in my closing statement, I also argued and I used Tulsa as an example of how this is still going to plague our society. The answer is right to participate in white society so that we can have the dominance of control, whether that be financial or whether that be politically, to eradicate these systems that harm our people. That's specifically what I said. I never
Yeah, I'm
said
Yes, but
rely on
confused
those
even
though.
people.
How do we how exactly by participating in the system that is designed for our people to fail, designed for our people to unalive, are we going to like materially change that system? One. Two, um like with regard to using Tulsa, that happens whether you like participate in the system or whether you try to separate off into a community, they will respond with a violent backlash. So I don't understand how that's a point against Queen when that's just a function of racism, is a function of white supremacy. Anytime we build any sort of power, whether participating in the system or separating, they will respond violently in order to continue to exploit our labor, in order to continue to exploit the unalivement of Black people.
Right.
I don't
And to
understand how
answer,
it's a point against Queen.
yeah, to answer the second part and then round it back to the first, I'm not disagreeing with you, right? And I brought Mobile, Alabama as a prime example, and it's because they have control of these laws. They have control of the financing to be able to go and cause havoc to our people, right? If it's not through a physical sense, which I'm hoping that we've gotten to the point where that is minimal within our society. Most people would argue not. I think I would even entertain it, right? But then it goes to the point where we're really crafty in how we're going to be getting at those Black people. Okay, let's start out with writing up certain laws, right? Or let's not educate those individuals in how they can take advantage of certain parts of the system. This system is going to continue to operate regardless. I agree with you. And that's because they have the control. And the only way to fix that is that we would have to participate in that society. We have to get control so that these things don't affect us. If we are
Yes,
in
but we can
Congress,
bring up
we
we can
can
even
change
bring up
those
the
laws. If we're in the NAIC, we can change those policies so that those homes aren't destroyed in East St. Louis and Memphis and
That's
Detroit.
Yeah, but
not
you
and
writing
that
those
doesn't
laws
change
doesn't
separating
change the
communities.
enforcement.
Exactly.
But
There's
I'm
still
not.
an enforcement mechanism that occurs,
Yeah, I
right? So
never
you
argued.
getting in the position that you can change the law, cool, you've written it down, and now that we can like look at that. But the enforcement mechanism is still an issue. The enforcement mechanism being
No,
the
it isn't.
police, it is. The
No, it
enforcement
isn't.
mechanism being the police, unless what you're talking about is completely destroying the policing system as well, on
No,
top of like
we
writing
could
laws.
increase we could increase things as it pertains to that as well, right? Like we can
No.
increase our numbers within the police department, and we can absolutely change the laws and how they're governed for police officers to be able to get
T-Bone,
off from their crimes
can
against
I
Black
say
people.
this and I'm gonna drop for real for real. Not if white supremacy exists. Everything that you're saying, I get why you're saying it, right? Because even though I kind of feel like you're like kind of flim flamming your own argument, honestly, because you're saying we
What?
have to listen. You're saying that we have to participate in the system in order to get the power. We are participating in the system, and it has not worked out for us. That's why I asked you the question of, wait, are you saying that we need them? Because how would we're doing it. We literally are doing it. But
But we've made
you
strides, correct?
some, yes, and then look, but this is what I wanted to say. Yes, yes, I agree. Yes, of course. Yes, we did what we had. Our elders, especially, did what they had to do. Our generation. You're younger than me. Younger. We're in an active fight. The fight has not stopped. It has not stopped.
But I do want to point this out, Mimi. I think that again, when we talk about the Black community, there's a lot of pushback where I don't see this type of pushback with other communities that have had success with
I
doing
was about to
this.
touch on that because
Because
you
even
brought
with
up
Amish communities, we see Amish communities
right.
don't heavily participate in a lot of things, but that doesn't mean that they're not governed by certain things, right? They obviously have to pay
Right.
taxes. They obviously have, federal income and property taxes and things like that. But they do, they have their private farms, they even
Yes.
have commercial businesses and things like that. They hire in people within that community, the dairy farming, produce, things like that. They have
Yes.
woodworking and construction, all the whole nine. Just because they had to buy property from the overall government and still have to pay taxes on this, there are some ways that they refuse to participate. They do exactly a for us, by us. Okay. They don't operate in Wall Street. They do have insurance exemptions, as you stated earlier. They opt out of what we see as commercial insurance and rely more on mutual aid. And they don't pay into SSA. So even if there are some areas where they still have to participate, like property tax, et cetera, they have to abide by those laws. Those communities thrive off of their own traditional traditional values in which they provide for themselves for the most part. No one is going to be able to fully escape what you're considering to be the governing laws and et cetera, et cetera. But that doesn't mean that it can't work just because they have to participate in property tax. That means that they're not self-governed. They absolutely are. They absolutely thrive on their own system that they created, even while still participating in things that you can't escape from because it's the law.
Yes, I don't disagree with you. Are you saying in order for, just so I'm aware, are you saying that minus the property tax side of things, everything else, are you saying that black people should operate in this way or something similar?
Uh, yeah. Let me just finish, Queen. I apologize. Chi Chi.
Okay.
No, Chi Chi said what I wanted to touch on because you said you made a comparison. I don't recall hearing the Amish honestly, but
Not
you.
in the debate, no.
Oh, okay, thank you. But you did mention Chinatown, I believe, or that might have been prior to. I'm not really sure. I
Yeah,
apologize.
yeah, T-Bone did mention it.
Okay, perfect. Now, I have a China. I'm in New York. I got a Chinatown. I live where I live. There also are affluent, functioning, working Jewish communities. Okay, or J community. Sorry, I don't want to get you flagged. They have their own hospitals, their own schools, but not only that, they have their own police. They have their own police, but why those communities work so well and they're able to be left quite the fuck alone, thank you, Chi Chi, is because they're white. You're saying participate in society. We are doing this. We are black people participating in society. You're saying work with white people, but when white people go to the voting booth, they voted against us and anyone in a marginalized group that needs more. They voted for white men. They did not vote for even for white women. Hell, these women are literally suffering because of abortion laws. Okay, so I W Queen on your win and sweet debate. I guess after y'all figure out which I was going to debate, I'm going to bed. Uh,
Night, Mimi.
good night, darling. Night, night, Shay Shay. Night,
Right.
T-Bone. I wasn't trying to yell at you, T-Bone. I was trying to tell you, don't tell me what I said. Tell me, clarify what you talking about. That's all.
Yeah, yeah. I think it was just because I wasn't able to get there, but yeah, that's my bad.
All right, all right. Good night, y'all.
Night.
I'm gonna drop too. I just had a few questions, but I think that yeah, I think that they've been sufficiently answered for now. But thank y'all for having me on.
Absolutely. Anybody else have questions, comments, concerns?
What's the scoring out of how many?
Uh,
50?
30. I think 30 is the max.
Oh.
5, 6. Yeah, it's 30.
Now me getting moved up in the rank. Who's gonna change the document?
I think it's already been changed.
Where am I at now?
You don't move up because, hold on, let me see. No, it wasn't updated. So you are, let me see. I am C tier, and you are.
Guys, all right, call her.
You're A tier, so you only get a certain amount of points because I'm a lower tier than you right now. Your points move up though, but you're still in A tier.
Mm-hmm. Okay, well, almost a perfect score because I'm almost perfect, as we all knew.
What happened? Where'd she go?
I don't know. So 50. Hers was 29, right?
Hey, we're outside.
Bell?
Yeah, 29, 22.
Okay.
I hate Sundays. I should shut down so I have the thing. Do you want to move over to yours? Do you want to start up?
Yeah, I can start up. Officer, do you still want to do the Thunder one that we had planned? Yeah, so answering mine. I'm gonna go start mine up now.
All right, I'll see you over there. Everybody move over to Tbone's. Ciao, ciao.